Welcome to the 2020 State of the Franchise. We all know that this year has been different for a multitude of reasons. Many we'll talk about right here as we look to how the 49ers are proceeding in the face of extreme social change, the impact of COVID-19 pandemic, and the inability to operate normally as they would have, in normal times. We have hosted a State of the Franchise for the past 3 years, and we weren't going to miss keeping you up to date with your team in 2020. And as usual, you will be hearing from the team across every facet. We have heard from the faithful and have some great questions for the guests on today's event. From ownership to coaches, from top tier players to some fun surprises, here's your 2020 State of the Franchise. What better way to kick it all off than hearing from CEO Jed York and team president Al Guido as they are joined by NFL Network's Good Morning Football host Peter Schrager on our first segment presented by Levi's.
I'm Peter Schrager, the host of NFL Network's Good Morning Football, and I am thrilled to be back for my third straight year for the fourth annual 49ers State of the Franchise. It is a virtual event this year, but it is as good as ever. And I am joined right now by two of the best men in the building, Team President Al Guido and Team CEO Jed York. Al, Jed, how are we doing today?
I'm good, man. I don't know that I have as much energy as you do, Schrags, but I'm doing pretty good.
Doing great, buddy. It's good to see you again, man.
It is so good to see you guys. Football is around the corner, and the world is in a real interesting place right now. And as we address the state of the franchise in 2020, we've got to start with the state of our country and with the world as we speak. With social justice and racial equality, two topics that are so paramount to this organization. Jed, I'm going to start with you, and then Al, you can echo your thoughts. Can you guys speak of some of the ways the 49ers are taking action and addressing these issues?
I mean, first and foremost, you're saddened and outraged when you see events take place, especially when they're specifically violent events that take place, targeted at African Americans. And we're focused on taking actions. We want to make sure when Colin started a protest movement in 2016, what we had talked about and talking to, Dr. Harry Edwards, his message, which is what we've really adopted, was taking protest to progress. And that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to make sure that we're working with our communities to help make a difference. We're allowing our employees, our players, everybody to let their voice be heard. And I think we're in a little bit different place where we've had these conversations taking place, sort of in a structured way since 2016. And we want to make sure that they continue. But we have to do everything that we can to allow people to have a voice, and whether that's making sure that they can get out to vote, and that's the best way to make your voice heard in this country, or if we can work with groups like the Players Coalition and others that can help change, laws and tactics and things like that we might not be experts in, but we want to work with people that are experts, that we can make real serious changes in this country. And the thing that we do know probably better than the political aspect of things that need to be changed. We certainly understand education, and we understand giving people opportunities. And that's where we've done work for decades, and we will continue to do work. But we want to make sure that we empower everybody in our organization and out to make the most of their lives and to have, what I believe is equality for all and justice for all.
I'm really proud of what we've been doing, at least in my 10 years here with the organization, around diversity and hiring practices. You think about the Bill Walsh Fellowship, right? I mean, this didn't start a month ago or 4 years ago. This is really what this organization has been about. You talk about it on your show with Kyle and his staff. And so we got to practice what we preach internally before we do anything externally. And Jed's been fantastic on that front. Obviously, with the recent events, Schrags, Jed and his family gave $1 million. We put an RFP, a request for proposal, out to a lot of nonprofits because, as Jed mentioned, we're not always sort of, the experts in these spaces. So we want to partner with the right people doing the work on the front lines to make change in our country that we need. And so, I think externally, as we get these organizations respond back to this grant, we're going to look to give out that $1 million to organizations. And then internally, Schrags, do everything that we've already been doing, but do it even more transparently. Share our diversity stats, share our hiring practices, do town halls with our employees. I personally I know John Lynch and Kyle have reached out to all of our African-American employees throughout this time. And look, the stories are terrible and they're powerful. I mean, you're in tears on these calls. And I think all it really tells you is we all need to do more. And statements are great, but I follow Jed and his leadership, and actions are more important. And that's what we're going to be about going forward.
Absolutely. And, we said it on our morning show, Good Morning Football. Some organizations, some coaches, some ownership groups, they can talk the talk, but the 49ers and Jed and, of course, Kyle Shanahan as well, and everyone from top to bottom of the organization, you guys walk the walk. And I'm honored to be a part of this, State of the Franchise event, but always am so honored to be a part of the 49ers in some way, just being involved in this event, because I know you guys stand for the right values and virtues, and you're going to walk the walk and lead the way. So kudos to you guys on that, and keep on going, because in terms of your impact in the community, I know the 49ers Foundation is so important. You guys directly support organizations that are making a difference in young people's lives. So Jed, what have the 49ers done this offseason to stay active and really support the Bay Area, especially with Bay Area youth?
There are a lot of groups that we've been working with for a long period of time. Tipping Point is a great group that fights poverty in the Bay Area. They're headquartered in San Francisco. I sit on their board. We've been working with them. They're groups that they support, that we've supported. One is Fresh Lifelines for Youth, that helps young folks that aren't quite adults, but they've been in trouble with the law, try to help them rehabilitate and get them a better understanding of what's going on, try to help them get out of trouble and be a role model for them. It's like those are two great groups that we've worked with. And it's a little tougher now. We've generally hosted a lot of students at Levi Stadium in our STEAM Learning Center. Obviously, that's not possible right now during COVID, but there are so many groups that will continue to support like that. And again, that's just a piece of the pillar. There's more that we need to do. And to the extent that we're talking about changing laws and changing the way police interact with their communities, we want to help support those things. But we also know that we aren't the experts, and we need to make sure that we educate ourselves better and we bring the right people to the table and help let our platform leverage their microphones.
Jed, you mentioned COVID-19. The Bay Area was one of the hardest hit in the country right from the get-go. The 49ers organization, though, did mobilize quickly, and you guys made an impact in the community. Al, can I ask what the organization immediately did when coronavirus really became such a blossoming topic, not only in this country, but specifically your market?
Our thoughts and prayers go out to everybody that's been impacted. And, the first thing was we donated $500,000 or contributed $500,000 to support all of our employees and the community. The funds have been activated all around the Bay to ensure safe, healthy guidelines, to feed people that couldn't go out to grocery stores. Those are compromised from a health perspective. We really wanted to be on the front lines of that. We launched 49ers.com, sort of I got your back. If you follow our team, I know the faithful does, you'll see Kyle and the guys wearing the t-shirts throughout the course of the year on the I got your back message. We took that. We instituted with our players and coaches. We created a 49ers Digital Playbook, as Jed mentioned, as part of our community nonprofit efforts in and around STEAM and education. Even though you couldn't come down to our facility, we still wanted you to have all of that. We created workout series with our players and our community, the 49ers prep people that we have on our staff. We partnered with folks, our sponsors. We couldn't do this without them. Whether it's Dignity Health or Levi's, I went out into the community to serve Pete's Coffee, to the doctors and nurses that we all know have been working so hard to fight this disease. And so we're really proud of it. And the last part, Shregs, is we all enjoyed high school. We enjoyed our college, whatever it was, our graduation ceremonies. But that got stripped away from a lot of people. We did a virtual graduation. Commencement speech was Joe Staley. He gave great words. It's hard to think about not having the graduations, not having the dances, not having all of these things. But, I think that it will only toughen the folks that are going to come out and be the class of 2020. And I think let's remember them for what they do in the future versus obviously COVID. And so for us, supporting them, celebrating them, donating to the causes was everything that this organization wanted to be about. And we couldn't have done it without the faithful and or our sponsors right at our side.
That is awesome. And if you haven't had a chance to see Joe Staley's commencement speech, truly awesome. We love Joe, and what a great message he shared. Al, I'm going to follow up with another question for you. So many people watching this right now are 49ers faithful, and they might be dressed in 49ers garb or a uniform, but they're watching from home, and they wanted to be in the building like we always are for this event. what does return to work mean for, I guess, the 49ers organization as a whole? And now as we look towards the end of June and into July, tell us a little bit about the phased approach to returning to the office, getting back on our feet as an organization.
Well, Shreyas, I would start with our NFL offseason, right? We're part of a broader community. We always talk about the Shield and 32. I mean, if you think about free agency, then you think about the NFL draft, there's a lot that we can take from this. I mean, you talk about it on your show, what the draft meant to people and humanizing, right? Seeing our coach and his kids at the table. And so there's a lot of good that have come out of this and things that we can actually take into the future of our business moving forward. And so we break it down into 3 phases, Shreyas. First, it's like, okay, can the business staff, can our strength and conditioning staff, our medical staff, those players who've gotten surgeries return? They are all in our building right now. They're all going through care. They're all getting their PT. They're out on the practice fields as we speak. The second phase, as we talked about, was like coaches coming back in the building, right? The third phase is getting our players back on the field. So we're working hand in hand with the Players Association, Chief Medical Officer Alan Sills, around what those player protocols are going to be. Those sports fans, we all hear about MLS and MLB and NBA and what's coming back. I feel unbelievably confident in our medical staff, our partners at NFL, plus our doctors here at our team. And I say the fourth phase, Shreyas, is like the reopening of our games. Yeah. So training camp obviously is the start of kicking off games. And I am excited to get back to NFL football. What I will tell all of the faithful tuning in, we're working really hard with our county, and our county has been fantastic. Our leaders, our political leaders in California have done an unbelievable job maintaining safety. And so we're working literally every single day in communication with them around our return to sports and our return to games. And I'm confident that we'll have an NFL season.
I love it. Al, I hosted this event last year. You guys were coming off a 4-12 season in which Jimmy G went down with the injury. Now you're the conference champions, the defending ones. You're no longer the hunters. You are the hunted. And yet this giant obstacle of COVID-19, and how do we handle and how do we tackle this? Jed, as the team CEO, I ask you, as we start thinking about new precautions and football preparations, what does the state of the football season look like from your vantage point?
I mean, we're preparing to play the 2020 season as scheduled. And that's the only thing that we can do right now. We have to make sure that our primary focus is keeping our players and coaches and the fans and all the people that work around the game healthy. And that's what we've done. You know, I think Al talked about the great folks in the county that have just been awesome to work with. You're bringing a ton of people together to figure out, you know, what are the best decisions that we can make based off of the medical officers and public health officials, so that we can make sure that we can move forward in the right manner.
Jed, the schedule came out in May and it almost felt like fantasy football. Like, are we really going to play these games? Are they really going to happen? And then you start actually looking at the schedule, and then you start getting that feeling of excitement. Like, wow, okay, we now know who we are playing. Team CEO, you went to Super Bowl last year. Which matchups are you looking forward to the most, and how excited are you to play some freaking football?
I mean, we're so excited. I mean, obviously, every game is going to be a big game. Every game is going to be important. But to be able to have 5 primetime games, 4 of them at home at Levi's Stadium is going to be huge. Anytime that you look at New Orleans or the Cowboys, people that we've had huge rivalries with, those are going to be awesome games that people are going to be fired up for. The Seahawks, like the way that the regular season ended last year, obviously there's a huge, awesome rivalry between us and the guys up north. You know, get to play those guys twice. You look at just our division. I mean, you're better equipped to say it than me. Is there a better division from top to bottom in the National Football League? You got a young quarterback that reminds you, you know, a lot of Russ and things that he can do and just make plays from anywhere on the field. And then you have the Rams who, you know, by the way, were in the Super Bowl a few years ago. This is not an easy division. So it's got to start with the NFC West. And, you know, it's going to be a very, very difficult place to start, but there's going to be a lot of awesome football this year.
Yeah. And then you add in some new faces too, Brandon Ayuk and of course, Javon Kinlaw, and you guys made some moves in free agency. It's an exciting time. And guess what? It is a little bit more than a month away, and we're going to have the players there, hopefully at training camp. And then we can actually talk real life football, because I think it's happening. Jed York, thank you so much for your time. We know you have quite a bit to tend to now that you guys are back in the facility and awesome seeing you back in your office. Can't wait to get out to Levi's and be a part of the faithful and see a game in person. Jed, thank you for your time.
Well, no one likes me being at the office more than my wife, Shrakes. So thanks for being here, man.
Don't go anywhere, faithful. We are talking about the future of the fan experience right now. So, Al, I ask you, I know you're always on the forefront of tech and innovation. What can the fans expect to see in the future this year?
Well, we're really excited about this season, Shregs. I mean, our marketing team has done an unbelievable job. You know, if you go to last year, I think all the content we put out during that run, you know, my personal favorite was the return of Quan Alexander. We got a lot of buzz around your shop, but our team has always done a great job there. The faithful continue to want more. We're real excited to launch our new 49ers app. It's got a brand new update, and, you know, just go into the Apple, Google Play stores, you know, refresh it. It'll be brand new. All the new content will be in there. Brand new layout. Obviously, we'll live stream all of our games on there. You know, where this is honestly where you can find all of your 49ers news, all of your 49ers content, manage your tickets, manage your parking, you know, all types of things in there. So we're really pumped about that. And then the next thing, Shregs, is we do try to be on the front edge here of fan and customer experience. And that actually gets to season ticket member value. And season ticket member value for us, I mean, we're proud. I mean, like, we have over 60,000 faithful in our building. Our building has been sold out since we opened it, which is crazy. We're going to be heading in, I think, to our 7th season here. This year, we're doing something completely different than has been done in any other sport in the world, where we're actually including all food and beverage alongside of your ticket purchase. So you'll be able to go up to a concession stand.
Really?
Yeah, get what you need. And so for, you know, now, like in a COVID world, right, you might be able to obviously order it in your app and then just go pick it up. So we've all gotten used to that. And so for us, it was about, you know, creating something that we thought could be extremely valuable, understanding what people order on a game day. No, it doesn't include alcohol. You know, there's a hot dog and a beer. You got to pay for your beer. But it is going to include your soft drinks and your food for every single season ticket in our building. That's amazing. Which has never been done at the scale that we're about to do it.
Yeah, it's a bottomless nachos. That sounds delicious.
Exactly.
Sign me up.
Yeah.
You know, that's incredible. And then you mentioned it, the cashless transactions. That's going to be huge. You guys are at the forefront of that as well. You know,
well, we've been getting ready for this for years, and obviously people talk about it to be COVID related. But truthfully, I think this transition has been happening in sports over time. If you think about how you go to airports, Trey, you now use your mobile app to scan in. And so same with tickets, right? You know, you've gone away from the paper ticket and you're now using the mobile application. And so, you know, as we prepare for health and safety, but also just frictionless, right, is removing the cash in our building and going completely cashless, completely contactless. Now, our partner at Visa is doing a tremendous job, because we know some folks, it's going to take some time on the adoption.
Sure.
Still might bring some cash. You know, you can turn your cash in, you can get a card back for those who might not carry a credit card or a debit card that they might want to use. And so what I would tell fans, at least our season ticket members, and anyone, frankly, coming to a game, the most important thing anyone can do is just have access to the 49ers app. It's already a great place to kind of check out all the content if you're a fan and get all the stats. It now has all these other features. So if you think about your mobile wallet or your mobile ticket, if you just use that, you'll be able to get into a game. You'll be able to order anything that you need to, whether it's retail. So for us, it's really important moving forward. And honestly, it's become even more important with COVID that we head in this direction.
Yeah, I've always said you guys are leaders with this innovation in tech, and it's only fitting with the market you guys are in and all of the innovators out there on the West Coast. I guess my last question to you, you know, we've talked about COVID-19, how it's impacted numerous things. We've talked about return to work, return to football. What about return to events at Levi's? Like, what is that going to look like? And what are the future of some events there at the park?
Yeah, it's unfortunate. Obviously, we lost all the 2020 summer events. But 2021, and that's the confidence we all find, right, is we got people much smarter than me. Maybe not you, Shregs, that are trying to figure out how to figure this out.
Speak for yourself.
But,
go on.
Yeah. But you know, the concert promoters are really shaping up to make 2021 a big summer. And, you know, I think right now we have about 8 holds on the docket, and normally we do 3 or 4. So just give you an idea, we're talking about twice as many concerts.
Awesome.
We're in the mix on a lot of soccer events. I haven't hid from the fact that we want Levi Stadium to be the host of a future Super Bowl. So we're having a lot of conversations right now with the National Football League. Levi Stadium has gone through a transformation, and not just in the physical building, right? Obviously this year, anybody that didn't think it was a home field advantage,
yeah,
on those
you don't hear those stories anymore.
Yeah, I mean, look, you talked about it with Jed, but fighting for that home field advantage. If you go back and look at the New Orleans game last year, or what that Seattle game meant, big picture, to be able to play the Vikings and play Green Bay at home, the crowd noise and all of those things. I mean, for us, that's inside the building, and we're continuing to try to improve that experience. Outside the building now, there's a massive development north of our building. It's 250 acres, completely mixed use. You're talking about 30 bars and restaurants right outside that will really add to the flavor of the building. It's already broken ground. Mm-hmm. It's going to really ramp up after this season. Then there's the future of Levi's, which I think about as Super Bowls, World Cups, right? How we might be able to partner with the Olympics on 2028. With Jed's vision, it was always to set out to have the best home field advantage in the NFL, which our faithful have, I think, given us that. I feel really good about it. And then the next piece is to become a destination for the largest events in the world. And if we can do that moving forward, we hosted more events than any other stadium in the country in our first 6 years, but we're not done yet. The question now becomes, what's the next decade of Levi Stadium look like? And we're going to be looking to get a lot of feedback from our fans and our surveys and our focus groups as we move forward around, we had a great year on the field. We had a great year off the field. How can we get better in all facets? We want to keep this run going, Triggs.
So whether it's response to COVID-19, whether it's response to football, whether it's tech or innovation, whether it's the NFC, you guys truly are leaders. And now you're walking the walk like you always do. And you don't even have to talk the talk. You guys do the job just in your actions. And Al, I appreciate you having me for State of the Franchise, but I think everyone at home appreciates having you. Thanks so much for another great event. Yeah,
appreciate you being on, Shregs, and for all the faithful tuning in. Just want to thank everybody for their support and help. We wouldn't be able to do all the things we talked about without them. Even on our foundation, we've raised $6 million this year. And look, a lot of it is $1, $5. Our fans are, they're just awesome. And, we've raised over $50 million since really the York family, the DeBartolo family started this foundation. And so we know our time the last couple of months has been all about the community and our players and our staff. And the next phase is about getting back to football. But I would be remiss because it's been an emotional time for all of us if I didn't truly thank the faithful. And they showed up more than ever, these last couple months in supporting everything we wanted to do, everything our players wanted to do. And it just goes to show, obviously, they care about what we do on Thursdays, Sundays, and Mondays. But more importantly, we care about each other as a family. That I got your back motto is, it lives and breathes within our organization. And it wouldn't be here without Jed York bringing a culture of Kyle and John, everybody else together. So Shregs is part of the broader NFL family of what you do, man. Thank you so much. Thanks to the faithful. Thanks for tuning in. Appreciate everyone.
Al, it's been my pleasure. I love being a part of the State of the Franchise event. I want to thank the faithful as well. And of course, our corporate partners who help us put on all of these awesome events. Guys, there's plenty more to come.
So much has taken place since the 49ers made their trip to Miami. With hopes of returning to the big game, the team headed into the 2020 NFL Draft and looked to add to an already talented roster. On draft weekend, however, some news arose about the team's future. This time, it wasn't the addition of promising rookies, but the retirement of one of the most beloved players ever to wear a 49ers jersey. Joe Staley decided to hang up his cleats after an illustrious 13-year career. I recently connected with Joe and CEO Jed York to celebrate his incredible journey and hear some stories along the way. And here it is in this segment presented by Levi's.
Yeah! 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 Let's go! Great job, D! Great job, D!
Kiana Martin here with 49ers owner Jed York. And we've got a familiar face in the building, 49ers legend, Joe Staley. Joe, thanks so much for joining us here. How's retirement treating you? Have things finally set in that you're retired, or is that coming later on down the line once football's up and running?
Yeah, it has settled in a little bit. I'm trying to get on the golf course. I actually golfed with McGlinchey. We golfed Pebble Beach. Was the first time I ever golfed Pebble Beach in my whole entire time down here in the Bay Area. So figured before I was moving out of the Bay Area for good, I had to golf there one first time actually.
Are you any good?
No, I'm not good. Like I said, I have some hours to fill now, and so I think it's a good activity to pick up.
You have to be better than McGlinchey, don't you?
No, he's actually really good. You know, Mike, he's just like overanalyzes everything, and so he's going to overanalyze every single golf swing. He thinks he's listening out there, Tiger Woods, so he expects perfection out of everything he does. If his shot isn't an absolute perfect, he's losing his mind, and so I have to remind himself, just like I had to on the football field, that it's a game, and you're not a professional golfer. You're a professional football player, so let's get upset about football, not golf.
We're going to have to check back in like a couple of months and see how you're doing with your golf game. But it's your first June not preparing for football in decades, right?
Yeah, it still is kind of weird because, you know, typically everybody would be doing off-season programs, OTAs, all that stuff, and I'd be seeing all the news and not being a part of it. But no one's really doing that right now. So, you know, everybody's kind of doing the same home workouts that everybody else is doing across the country. And, you know, I've been doing home workouts too. So maybe in my own mental state, it hasn't really hit me that I'm not getting ready for football. But, you know, once training camp comes around and things start getting ramped up and guys go back to work and all that stuff, it'll probably hit me a little bit more.
So Kyle Juszczyk recently shared a story about how after the Super Bowl on the bus ride from the to the airport, you were going back and forth in your mind and with your teammates on your decision to retire. He alluded to your competitiveness and wanting to finish what was being built. How hard at that moment was that decision, just coming hours after the Super Bowl, even before consulting doctors and physicians? How difficult was that?
The whole entire process was extremely difficult. I think it was well documented, and I think the way I played the game and went about my business, so it was everybody could tell how much the game of football meant to me and how much, you know, playing for the 49ers franchise meant to me. And you know, something that I obviously did not take lightly. And I mean, even when I was going through the whole process, I was having all these thoughts and conversations that changed my mind, you know, one day to the next, 1 hour to the next. So, you know, obviously in the super raw moments after the Super Bowl, you're all over the place emotionally. You know, as you get older, your body starts kind of wearing down. And I gave everything I had to the game, but it was never a right time, but you know, it was the right time for me.
Jed, what was your timeline when you heard the news, and what was your reaction to your longest tenured 49er hanging it up for good?
I saw Joe after the Super Bowl and everybody was emotional. You know, when we got to it and Joe kind of informed us of his decision close to the draft. I mean, again, like an awesome teammate, he didn't make an announcement before the draft. He allowed us to go into the draft with people not knowing that, and that helped us go make a trade. And again, it just shows you what an ultimate teammate Joe is in terms of doing what he has to do for himself, but putting the team first and putting the organization first and letting us try to not be at a disadvantage with him making his own personal announcement. He's going to always be a part of this team in one form or another. And that's always how he's approached it.
Since the announcement, just about every one of your teammates, past and present, all recall different memories of you. Have you heard some of the stories your teammates have shared?
That's the thing that's so great about football, is it just brings so many different people together. You just accumulate memories and moments, and not even ones that are in the public eye and ones that are shared in the football field, but just, you know, conversations, bus rides, plane rides. I mean, everything that just goes along with being a professional athlete. And there's a lot of fun stories that I have with a lot of the, you know, different players that I got to play with.
We heard the story about Patrick Willis and his first time meeting you coming down the escalator at SFO, and he sees this big guy coming down, and he's like, oh, so that's who I'm practicing against. And then Raheem Mostert told the story about when he first got to the team, you were one of the guys that sat in the cafeteria with him, and he was curious on how he could become a great like Frank Gore, and you sat and kind of talked through what kind of guy, what kind of player Frank is. These are just some of the stories, but Jed, I want to toss it back to you. What would you say? Do you have a personal memory or a favorite moment that happened with Joe?
A good friend of mine from high school, when we were playing in Pittsburgh, his son was probably like 6 or 7 at the time and was a big Moana fan. And he told Joe that, and Joe started busting out Moana songs. And like, that's something that's fairly stuck in my head, but that was not like a one-off thing for Joe. And that's, again, it's what makes him a special person, is that he knew the stage that he was on, and he treated everybody with respect and with dignity. And whether it was an adult or whether it was a little kid, made them feel so comfortable and so at home. I was fortunate enough to go home last week to see my parents, and obviously travel is not the easiest thing to do right now, but she's got a picture from one of her events where my mom is in the middle, and McGlinchey's on one side and Joe's on the other. You see Joe here, and that's the type of person he is somebody that's going to sit there and protect, somebody that's my mom's size, and he's going to protect. And like, that's just an image that I have in my head. That it was an awesome night. It was an awesome photo, and it speaks volumes to who Joe is.
I want to go back to that week 17 win in Seattle, the spike after Mostert's touchdown. Joe, you said, I've been waiting my whole career for that spike. You were emotional after the win. Remind us just that significance of that game, and what did it mean to you and your NFL career?
Yeah, that game, just because of what it meant to the team in the season to win the title, everything on the line, and then just personally, just being part of so many heartbreak games there. You kind of go back to the 2013 game, the NFC Championship, coming so close, and then we kind of lost there every time we played until that moment. For everything to be on the line, to win that game, and still it was an unbelievable game, unbelievable finish, obviously. Dre had the big stop at the goal line. One of those memories and one of those games that I'll remember for the rest of my life. I think in that moment I just got the ball and I just realized it kind of hit me like, we're going to do this. This is going to happen. We're going to win. And especially in the environment that we were in. And Seattle's a really hard place to win. So I shared this before, but my only thoughts was, I know I'm really amped up and I'm going to give everything I have to this spike, but just don't fall over.
Jed, did you kind of have a similar emotion? And I'm not talking about falling over after a spike, but just the emotion surrounding that game, being up 2 touchdowns and the history of playing at CenturyLink Field. What was your emotion during that game?
I either had the pleasure or the misfortune that I've been there many, many times, and just know that the game is not over at that place until there's 3-0 in the fourth quarter. They tried to knock us out, and we did everything that we could to stop them, and thankfully we did. I echo Joe's sentiments that if I had a ball, I would have definitely spiked it, but I would have probably fallen on my face.
Joe, you were named to the NFL All-Decade Team. What does that mean to you?
What is it? Rising tides raises all ships. So the better that I'm doing for the team, the better the team's going to be doing. And that's how everybody's going to kind of get what they wanted to go individually. With that all being said, though, that was something I was pretty proud of, just because it's more of a career award, and to be honored that way is pretty special. So something I'll tell the kids.
I want to talk about Trent Williams. He's got big shoes to fill, and not only as a player, but as a teammate. But give me a scouting report.
Trent is someone that I've watched my whole entire career as someone how to do it at the highest level. His athleticism is, I think, unparalleled in the NFL as far as left tackles. What he's able to do out in space, point of attack. He's really perfect for Kyle's scheme offensively. Like Jed said before, it was really important to me to be able to keep the 49ers in a position where they weren't screwed over by my retirement, and creating a big void there in the offensive line. And not only that, but just, kind of a leadership, veteran presence. And for the organization to kind of pivot from me to Trent Williams, I don't think he can do it much better. He's one of the absolute best in the game at left tackle. Everybody that's played with him says he's an unbelievable person, teammate. He's a veteran guy that knows how to get things done. He's done it at a high level for a long time.
Joe, honestly, you will truly be missed. We'll miss seeing you on the field, and we're hoping to see you back in some capacity, even if that's just to harass the guys in the locker room. But before we go, I want to hand it over to Jed because he has something special to present you.
We send something to your house. I won't tip the hand as to what it is, but we'll give you the opportunity to open it up, and I'll tell you a little bit more about it.
All right. Yeah, I'm very curious on what this is. There's a lot of secrecy going around about this package. I was not allowed to touch it. I did open it with a little knife, didn't peek inside, but I got it all prepped and ready. So it's right here.
He's much better protecting the blind side than opening the packages. All right.
Oh my gosh!
Well,
This is pretty sweet.
Our crew helped design that and put that together for you, and we wanted to try to capture your career. And again, there's a lot to capture, but I hope you have fun with that. I know we all had fun putting it together for you, man.
This is unbelievable. Thank you so much. When I get excited, I want to swear, and so I'm having a hard time keeping my.
Don't spike it.
Really freaking cool, man.
I'm glad you like it, Joe.
Yeah, thank you.
I hope the girls, get a chance to really look at that and know what the team and what your teammates and what the organization thinks. Obviously, we're looking forward to you being in our Hall of Fame at some point. I have a bet with Frank as to who's going to be the first 49er that I was around that goes into Canton. And you at least have a leg up on him now for retiring a year before.
Frank is taking his time. He's gonna be playing until he's 50.
I know.
For the people that are watching and looking at this illustration, there's different quotes and sayings from former teammates, current teammates that encapsulates Joe's entire career. And I know it's hard. You might not be able to see everything right here, but it is featured on 49ers.com, where there's also an in-depth look at the making of this illustration. So make sure you guys check that out.
This is awesome. Thank you very much. And
I'm glad that you like it, man.
Yeah, I love it.
You said, I want to be remembered as a guy that gave his all, and the organization wanted to create something that resembled that. Again, thank you so much for these last 13 seasons. Hopefully we get to see more of you in the near future. And don't forget, faithful, to see this illustration, make sure you guys head to 49ers.com. Joe and Jed, thank you guys so much for joining us here on State of the Franchise.
Like you said, I'm not going to be a stranger. So as much as Jed will allow the doors to be open for me, I will be there.
We may have to keep you on reserve just as a tight end. We might need like a COVID relief person.
Could be. I don't know. We'll see what's going to happen. It's going to be very interesting. But I'll get to watch it as a fan, so that's going to be fun.
Well, the door's open, man. Anytime.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It was absolutely amazing to see Joe's reaction to that portrait. And make sure you guys do head to 49ers.com so you can get an up-close look at what made Joe so excited. As much as Joe meant to the team, he's not the only player to steal the faithful's hearts, as you well know. So many great players have worn red and gold, and one in particular, a fan favorite, joined us for this next segment presented by DEFCON. When you think of some of the most talented and passionate players to play defense for the club, the name Bryant Young is definitely in that conversation. We were lucky enough to get Bryant to join both Jed and I as we talked all things 49ers and a little Notre Dame as well.
How bad do you want it? How bad do you want it today? Huh? I expect to be playing next week. Niners on three. 1, 2, 3. Niners.
Welcome back to the 49ers State of the Franchise. Jed York here with me. It's always great to have you on. Jed and I are joined by a 49ers great, 4-time Pro Bowler, an all-pro defensive tackle, 49ers franchise leader in career sacks, one of the most respected players in franchise history. Bryant Young, welcome to State of the Franchise. How are you doing, and how are you holding up during this time?
You know what? I'm doing great. Thank you for having me on. I'm excited. This is, kind of a light in the midst of all that's going on, and holding up pretty good. I'm just excited for this day today.
Absolutely. Now, before we jump into your career, because we definitely have a lot to talk about, did you follow along with San Francisco's success last year? And if so, what was your biggest takeaway? And what's been your impression of the 49ers talent along the defensive line?
I followed them very closely, and, they're a very exciting team to watch. I loved how the chemistry of the team, the coaches, how the collaboration was there. The chemistry was great. They're just exciting to watch in a lot of ways. That defense, they cause a lot of problems and issues for a lot of offenses. You were hoping for number 6, and boy, we're that close. And I know we're that close, and it's going to happen soon.
If anybody knows about giving a quarterback a hard time, that would be you. But as someone who was a fixture with the 49ers for your entire career, what did it mean to you to be a 49er?
You know what? It meant a lot. Look at the tradition over the years, starting with ownership and the job that they do, the leadership and how it permeates downstairs through the coaches, through the players. And you want to give that back. There's a lot of tradition, guys that started their tradition and then passing the baton. I took pride in that as a 49er. Passing the baton, taking that and that responsibility to continue that tradition. That was important to me. So I wore that badge, that emblem with pride. And so it was just an exciting opportunity to represent the organization and play for an awesome franchise.
And Jed, there's a Notre Dame connection here. Did that automatically make Brian one of your favorite players?
Well, it's more than that. You see what an unbelievable human being BY is. You couldn't ask for somebody to be a better football player and a better human being than BY. And, the cherry on top is obviously we're both Domers.
Can you talk a little bit about what BY meant to the 49ers franchise?
He's too humble, but I think he talked about it where the emblem meant so much to him. I don't think anybody's even close to the Len Eshmont Award wins that BY had. I think it's 8. He had a 3-peat in there and a 4-peat in there because he was always there was just no question that he was the heart and soul of the team. He was the leader of the team. And that's who he is as a person. And I think that's so understated, especially in a more current NFL where you just don't have players that play their entire career in one place. And we were fortunate enough to have BY his whole career here. And I think he was a great link to truly the past of the 1980s and early 90s teams that were Super Bowl champions, part of the last Super Bowl, and really brought that forward with him. I know just a conversation that we had the other day, BY is working with other former players around racial justice issues and race relations, and how can former players be helpful because he cares about the game and he cares about the team.
Brian, you spent 14 seasons in red and gold, and I've been dying to know, is there a memory stands out most to you when you just reflect on your time as a 49er?
Well, there's so many great moments. Obviously winning the Super Bowl, but the relationships in the locker room, those are cemented. But also, having an injury and coming back from that and having the respect of my teammates, being honored with the Len Eshmont Award a number of years, that means a lot to me. There's so many great moments, but obviously the Super Bowl and then also being comeback player of the year, those things meant a lot to me as well.
Jed, how about you? Any memories that stand out from Brian's time in San Francisco?
Well, I definitely remember the comeback player of the year and how much he worked to get back. It wasn't necessarily on the field, but I'll never forget going into the weight room and we have 200-pound dumbbells, like 200, and most people can't bench press 200 pounds and those were specially made for BY, and you'd have to have 3 people carry them over to him so he could start bench pressing literally 400 pounds with 200 in each hand. And I think it took until Larry Allen was here for anybody even to attempt to pick those up.
You know what? It's funny you mentioned that, Jed. I challenged Johnny Parker. I think the weight only went up to 150 at the time. I said, Coach Parker, how do you expect us to get better, bigger, better, stronger if you only got 150 pounds and that's all you go up to? And so he got, Coach Parker took a lot of pride in his work. And so he got so mad, he went and he walked away with a grin on his face, and he went and ordered him the next day. And in about a week or two, went on, and we had 200 pounds. So that's how those came about. But, Johnny Parker was instrumental in getting those things in there. But I challenged him to help us get better.
Well, it worked.
BY, as I'm listening to you and I'm talking with you, I can't help but to notice your jerseys hanging up in your background. And with that, I'm going to toss it over to Jed because I believe you have some news you want to share with the faithful.
When I look at, I think I alluded to it, but when I look at BY on the field and off the field, I don't know that you could ask for a better 49er and certainly a better person. And we are honored to induct Bryant Young into the Edward J. DeBartolo Sr. 49ers Hall of Fame. BY. Congratulations. Thank you for everything that you've done for this organization, the National Football League, the game of football. I mean, you deserve this, and I definitely hope that there's another Hall of Fame waiting for you down the road.
Thank you so much, Jed. I am so thrilled for this opportunity. And when I look back and think about all that has transpired and how I got to this point, it took a lot of people that supported me, that were part of my village. And so I bring all those people with me. And this is very special to me, because when I talk about wearing the badge of honor and representing it in the best way I can, one of the name on my back, who I represent as an organization, and the guys that came before me, I wanted to make sure I left it way, way better than I found it. And so having this nomination and being enshrined in the 49er Hall of Fame means so, so much to me. And I thank you, Jed, and the 49er organization, Dr. York and Mrs. York, for this opportunity. And I'm grateful for this opportunity to be enshrined with many of the great players that have come before me. So thank you so much.
I wish that we could be doing this in person. I wish I could give you a big hug and a big handshake, and I look forward to when that's possible.
Yeah, thank you. Likewise.
BY, we appreciate you so much for joining us on here. And then also, just thank you for your contributions on the field for 14 years with the 49ers. Congratulations. We look forward to celebrating you as the newest inductee into the Edward J. DeBartolo Sr. 49ers Hall of Fame and seeing your number lifted onto the 49ers Ring of Honor this year.
Thank you so much. I look forward to it as well, and look forward to embracing all that who has been a part of this. Thank you.
So very fitting. Welcome home, Bryant Young. 3 seasons ago, John Lynch became a rookie general manager as he was tasked with getting the San Francisco 49ers back to prominence. The work had begun, and 3 years later, the team represented the NFC in Super Bowl 54. And although they did not bring home their 6th Lombardi trophy, they certainly did accomplish a great deal and, more importantly, created a winning culture, assembling a talented roster of players. In the next segment presented by DevCon, voice of the 49ers Greg Papa sat down with John and caught up with the GM.
Hey, faithful, it's Greg Papa, the radio voice of your 49ers. I have missed you, and I can't wait to see you in person. I have not seen this guy since, I think, Groundhog's Day, and I think we're living in Groundhog's Day. Faithful, your 2019 NFL Executive of the Year, John Lynch of the San Francisco 49ers. We're all alone here. Let's make it like it's a packed house, John. Hey!
Thank you for the nice introduction, Greg. I appreciate it, man. It's good to hear your voice.
Good to hear you. You look good. So obviously, the state of the world, we're doing the state of the franchise. The state of the world is just different. Let me just start with the state of the Lynches. How are you? How are your kids? How are your family dealing with this?
The Lynches are doing well. You know, I think I always am an optimist in every situation. And I think the blessing, the silver lining for us, we have got 2 college kids. We've got 4 kids total, 2 college kids. And I thought the days of them being home for long periods of time had come and gone. And they're both at school locally. One's at Stanford, one's at Santa Clara. But to have them home, they may have another answer. But for us, my wife and I, and their younger siblings are pinching ourselves because it's just been tremendous family time. Obviously, you hurt for people in the world who, due to the virus and other things going on, are hurting. But there has been tremendous family time, which has been a real blessing. And then, you know, we've all figured out how to work and how to get our business done from home. And that's been surprising how effective that's been able to be. And my family's been tremendous, allowing me to do that, but then also spend great time with them.
So how have you done that? How have you conducted the off season remotely as far as all the moves? And we'll get into everything you did this off season. And then the functionality of the football team with these Zoom meetings in place of in-person organized team activities, John.
Well, first of all, Greg, I go back to, it was draft preparation. I think we were a month out when the shelter in place started. And you know, we basically were told we could no longer go into the facility. And there was never panic, but there was, oh my, this is a big deal. And the best coaches are great teachers. And this has allowed them to truly teach and go over all the mundane at time things that the great players never see as mundane. They take as an opportunity to learn. And so I think it's been a really good learning experience. Kyle's been tremendous on these meetings, leading them. His coaches have been, and I think the players have really enjoyed them and had a lot of value out of them.
So tell me about draft day, and specifically the first day on Thursday, John, where you trade back at one spot, you trade up at one spot, and it's from 31 to 25 in the back end, and it seemed like you got the two guys you really wanted to get.
Going in, I would say with the 13th pick, we had probably three guys that we were going to stand pat. If they were there, we were drafting them. When we arrived at 13, those three were still there. And so, at that point we start saying, wow, let's try to find a trade partner, but we don't want to go back too far because Kinlaw was number one on that list. Tampa, wanted to come up. We were able to move back one spot, and we had a good idea. They weren't taking Javon Kinlaw. And so, we were able to accrue some more draft capital and get the player that we wanted. With 31, I can tell you that was a big surprise for us. If anything, I thought we were getting out, moving back because we needed some more picks. But Ayuk was one of those players that we talked about it, and he had gained so much favor in our process that, there was a scenario where we would take him at 13. And when, I think it was 21, when he got by 21, we just put everybody on their Zoom like this, make the calls, let's see if we can find a trade partner. Fortunately, it was Minnesota that we were able to, do a deal with, and we moved up and we're able to get Brandon Ayuk, and a player who we think fits us extremely well, and we just felt like that was too good of an opportunity. So to come out of the first round with two guys that we might have taken at 13, I felt was a banner day for us. And then you couple in, you throw in there the trade we were able to do, not on the first day, but later on. The Redskins kept us sweating, but with Trent Williams, it just made it a tremendous draft, along with our other draft picks.
Yeah, talk about that. So obviously a very productive and busy day one. Day two, you didn't have any picks, but you were getting ready for day three. And let's just start with the retirement of Joe Staley and what he has meant to this franchise, and just your conversations leading up to his decision to walk away from what's probably the best football team he ever would have played on. Last year's team got so close, but it's a tough call to walk away from a team that has the ability to win the Super Bowl. So how did that conversation go?
I think everybody recognized that, last year Joe struggled not only at the end, just with his health in general. He had a lower leg injury early in the season. That was incredibly frustrating because he felt so good coming into the season. Late in the year, he started to have some stinger issues, and it kind of, hit the boiling point around Super Bowl. But, Joe never told us because, like he later said, what was I going to do? Not play in the Super Bowl? No, I was playing in the Super Bowl. So after that, it kind of, he went and saw a variety of specialists, saw our own doctors, and got a variety of opinions. And, what speaks to Joe's character, he was so concerned with us, having a big hole there because of his inability to have an answer. And we had to keep encouraging him, no, take your time. We don't need an answer now. And finally, we had a conversation when he said, hey, when do you need to know? And I said, well, by the draft, I think we do need to know, because otherwise we have to make some other plans. And so, the week of the draft, Kyle, myself, and Joe got on the phone, and Joe broke the news to us that he felt it was in his best interest to retire. We had been in communication, fully supported that decision. And then it was time to get to work and try to find another, whether it was drafting someone, and, this Trent Williams situation was out there. We had made a call about it in the last season when Joe and McGlinchey were hurt, thinking, wow, this could be an option. When those guys come back, maybe we play them at guard, but it was too much compensation at that point. It just wasn't going to work. We just kept in constant contact. We didn't have anything to do on day two. So I just wore Ron Rivera out. And fortunately, day three, he woke up. He texted me, he said, let's talk. And we were able to do that deal. Really excited about it. Trent's a phenomenal player. He's replacing a phenomenal player in Joe, but incredibly motivated. He did not play football, last year, so there's going to be some rust, that he's going to have to knock off. But what we know is that he's feeling great, and we got a really good player replacing a guy who deserves Hall of Fame consideration in my mind, in Joe Staley.
COVID-19 obviously was the biggest story in the world for 3-4 months until Memorial Day night and the murder of George Floyd in Minneapolis. And it is now that's the biggest story in our country, and rightfully so, John. And obviously it's a huge story in the National Football League. I know you've reached out to your players via Zoom, and Kyle as well. I know you were on a conference Zoom with hundreds of personnel people around the league. So just from all the information that you've gathered and talking to your players, what do you want to tell the faithful about Black Lives Matter and where the 49ers are at right now, John?
Well, first of all, Greg, you talk about that night, and just like everybody else, me and my family, watched in disgust and horror and sadness and sorrow, watching someone just get the life sucked out of them, and other people sitting there and watching. And it was terrible. It was so graphic. I've got chills right now talking about it. And I think emblematic of something, your sign back there, enough is enough. This has been going on for a long time, and people have been crying out. And so, my parents, I'm always thankful for the way my parents and the values they instilled. And, a couple things come to mind. Number one, I think in times like this, your actions speak a lot louder than your words. And so we tried to do that. We tried to, and no one had the answers, but what do? You reach out to your team and you let them know that you love them, that that they're hurting, and you encourage conversation. And I can tell you, I played in this league for a long time. I played a position where I was usually the one white guy. And, something that I shared is I was always welcomed. I had to earn that, but I was always welcomed. And I always felt welcome in a spot where I wasn't normally, the white guy wasn't usually in that room. And how appreciative, because that never really dawned upon me. It just kind of was the way it was. And there's so much good about our game, that it strips you down to your core. And it makes you realize that you have so much more in common with people than the differences, and you learn to celebrate the differences. And I think that's what we need to do as a country, as a culture, is listen and talk and have uncomfortable conversations. We've done that. I will say about football, I was so proud of our head coach, Kyle, when he talked about passionately, because for everything right about our game, there's a lot that still is wrong. The fact that in my role, there's 2 people that are Black that have this role in a league that's 70% comprised of Black players. That's not right. And the same thing with head coaches. There's 4. That's not right. We recognize that. It's time that we do something about that. We've always been proud of the measures we take at the 49ers to be inclusive. And but we're going to do more. I'm going to do more. I'm committed to that. I talked about playing in the league, but I think this is awoken. I think the Black community has been crying out for a long time, but I think it's awoken everybody else to, some of this systemic racism. You hear that. Well, what's it mean? Well, you listen to the stories of people on my staff and the pain that they feel. It's hurtful. And, yesterday, I think I'm looking at some notes because this was so powerful. There was this Dr. David Rice, that was speaking on this call you alluded to, with a lot of front office people throughout the league. And one thing he said that's important as we get introspective, I've been praying a lot. Church opened this week, which is a great thing. I've been back at daily mass, and my prayer is for unity and for all these things. But he talked about one thing that's important, and I think this is applicable to everyone. How is it that you might be complicit in racism so that you can dismantle it, so that we can dismantle it? And I think that's so important. Everyone looking in the mirror first and foremost and saying, look, I don't believe, that I have a racist bone in my body, but how might I be complicit, and how can I make it better? And I think if everybody just does that, Kyle talked about it's not all going to change in a day, but we can chip away. And the one thing I could tell you, Greg, is I'm hopeful. I'm faithful. I think I have a lot of faith that some good change is going to come out of this. And we're not there yet because we want to do this right. I think our ownership, I'm so proud of them. They stepped up as they always did. But I think the thing that they know is that if all they do is give $1 million, but by the way, for the second time, they did this previously for social justice issues, and the action's not there to follow it up, it won't be effective. And so we're trying to mobilize our players, our staff, both on the business side, on the football side, as to what's important to you. How can we help? And our ownership's been tremendous in making it a very holistic process. And our players have some ideas of some of the things they're going to do based around. I don't want to give too much, but I think sharing some of the conversations they have with the public, and I think there's some exciting things coming down the pipeline. I know we're looking, within our organization, where can we be better? And I think if people do that around the country, I'm sorry I'm going long, but this has been an impactful couple of weeks, and it's a mix of the sorrow that you talk about because you see people hurting, but it's also makes me very encouraged and excited of what can come from this. And those are my thoughts. And I'm committed myself to trying to make this situation better with the platform that I have, and excited for that. And and also hurting for the people that have felt this pain for a long, long time.
Well said, John. Well said. So that's the state of the world we live in right now, and I think it's challenging, in a word. So the state of the franchise. Let's leave. This is the state of the franchise, right? So give me the state of the franchise from your first year. You lose your first 9 games. You make a trade to get the quarterback. You think that's out. Then the quarterback gets hurt the next year. And then last year happens, and you're 7 minutes and 13 seconds away from winning the Super Bowl. So now that you're into year 4, what is the state of the 2020 San Francisco 49ers, Jim?
Well, I think it's a state of a team that I think is very well equipped to compete for championships. Now it's incumbent upon us to find a way to be better than we were last year, which was pretty darn good. We talk about it a lot, Kyle and I. It's a philosophy, we kind of bonded on when we first started having conversations, and something John Gruden used to talk about. You never stay the same. You're either getting better or you're getting worse. And I'm very encouraged with where our franchise is. Our goal was to give ourselves a chance to be a better football team this year. I think we've done that. I think we have a chance to be a better football team, and that's tough. When you talk about some of the losses that we've had, I'm very encouraged, and now we just got to go do it. That's the great thing about this game. You can talk about it all you want, but you got to walk the walk, and we're looking forward to having the opportunity to do that.
And I'm looking forward to seeing you. I haven't seen you in so long. I can't wait. I'm going to give you one of these.
There we go.
We can't do that. We got to do that. There we go. So, thank you so much for your time, my friend.
Give me one more. I'm hearing your voice, and I'm just craving that touchdown.
Touchdown! San Francisco!
I love it.
Stay healthy, brother.
I love it.
Stay healthy.
When you think of our next guest, you think of a few things. One of football's most creative minds, a coach of the people, and a man whose game day swag is second to none. Prior to the interview, the Niners rewarded Kyle Shanahan with a new contract that keeps him with the 49ers for 6 more years. Kyle joined us from his home, and along for the ride was my good friend, Greg Papa. Thanks to our friends at Toyota for bringing this interview to the 2020 State of the Franchise.
No hesitation on anyone. We talked about making everyone feel us. We know we're at a big time right now. All right, we answered that. We got another big test this week. All right, I did not plan on this at all. But I had time to think about it a little bit. All right, I had time to think about it a little bit. Yeah, you guys got Victory Monday.
Hey, faithful, it's Greg Papa again, and I think I'm joined by the head coach of the 49ers. I can't see him behind that Corona beard, but that looks like Kyle Shanahan. Is that a lockdown-only beard? Are you going to be coaching games with that this year?
I don't know yet. I haven't decided. I didn't plan on it, but a lot of work went into this during the quarantine, and I'm not ready to get rid of it yet. But it's a big debate in my household about it every morning, so we'll see.
How long did it take you to grow? I think Garoppolo could wake up cleanly shaven at 8 in the morning and have one of those by 5 in the afternoon.
I'm not like Jimmy. I'm definitely not like Saleh. It takes those guys by lunchtime, but it took me about a month to get it going, but I'm pretty proud of it. It took a lot of work.
And you've gotten very good at this teleconferencing, which is the way, unfortunately, we're talking here. But as we segue to football, how has the off season been for you to have the OTA, to not have it on the field? Have you been able to duplicate what you would normally do in the classroom by doing it via teleconferencing, Coach?
Yeah, we haven't been practice-wise. There's been nothing. So, I really don't even call it OTAs. But being able to do all this stuff in the classroom by doing it on these conference calls, and that's been great. It's actually been more work than we would normally get in an off season, because usually you get guys coming in the building, you got to travel between meeting rooms. They're worrying about lifting, running, doing things like that. You got to catch up for a while. There's so many other things there in the building. And now we just get on there and we talk straight ball for the whole time. So from just a meeting room standpoint, we've been able to do more this offseason than we ever have. Now, the negative is you only can meet so much. We're not training guys to learn how to coach. We're training guys to actually do this with their bodies. And that's what you miss in OTAs so much, because OTAs, we get these 3 weeks of teaching. Then you get an OTAs and you get 10 practices or so, and you get to evaluate them and coach off the film and say what they're doing right and wrong. And then they get away for a month and training camp starts. So that's what they're going to miss now, is those 10 practices that we get in OTAs and mini camp that are really crucial to get guys ready to go, and also to give the rookies usually a chance.
Talk about the rookies, obviously the draft players, but also the list of undrafted players you brought in. Is it going to be even more of a challenge, do you think, this training camp, to get them up to speed? Because yes, they can go through the mental reps, but it's all new. And then they're not going to have much time on the actual field, no joint practices. How challenging will it be to get the rookies up to speed?
It's a huge challenge. It's a challenge for rookies every year as it is. And they only get the OTAs after the draft, which they're a little behind there. And then they go into training camp and they got about a month to make the team. And people don't realize how hard it is to make a 53-man roster. And when you only have 10 guys on practice squad and you don't have a minor league type system, it can come and go for guys pretty fast. And it's a huge issue not getting the OTAs for those guys, but it's nothing new. Kendrick Bourne, Solomon Thomas had to deal with this because they were on the quarter system 3 years ago. And when you're on the quarter system with colleges, they didn't allow you to practice till your graduation date was done. So I've had to deal with rookies in this case where the first time you see them is training camp. And guys have done it before, and it's going to be really hard for some guys, and some guys it won't affect as much. It kind of depends on the makeup of the guy, but it definitely is a challenge.
18 of 22 starters are back, but you have brought in some guys that are new to the roster, but brought in guys that know your system very well. Joe obviously is a tremendous football player in every regard, but stylistically, Trent is a little bit different. He's so athletic. You know him so well. We're talking about one of the dominant left tackles in the modern game and arguably in the history of the game. Just tell us about Trent Williams. I'm excited to watch him play.
Trent's great. Everything you just said about him. I've been so fortunate just in the places I've been to be with some of the best tackles in this league. And from Joe Staley to Trent Williams, being with Joe Thomas, Dwayne Brown when I was in Houston. I've been with some real good ones. And to lose one like Joe was crushing, and he had to do it. It wasn't something he could really have much of a choice on. It was the right decision for him and his family. But it was as a player very hard to replace. And when a guy like Trent just randomly can be available like that, that was the first draft pick that we made when we were there in Washington. And to be with Trent as a rookie, he was as talented as any player we've been around. He's the guy who I truly believe could play three technique in this league if he wanted to. The guy, if he goes to the basketball court, he's going to play point guard just as well as he plays center. He's that type of athlete, and it's pretty neat because, Joe Staley was like that too in a similar way. A tight end in college. I think Joe won the 200 coming out of high school in the state and things like that. So whenever you can deal with old linemen like that, who have that type of athletic ability and some size, it's a huge advantage in our game.
And obviously he could have gone to a number of spots. He wanted to come here because of how good your team is. It could be a chance to not only win a playoff game, and maybe three of them, and win the Super Bowl. And he obviously wanted to work with you. He said that publicly. And he also said the quarterback. He's got to pick, how the offense is going to function, and he picked Jimmy Garoppolo. As you evaluate what he did for you last year, Coach, 1 year removed from the ACL, and project what he might do for you in 2020, what do you see from Jimmy Garoppolo?
I think Jimmy had an unbelievable year last year. When you look at him statistically, just the percentages and stuff of what he did, he's extremely accurate, kept us in some very good situations, and won a few games for us too. And we had a number of games where he had to come out huge on some 3rd and longs, some last-minute drives, and make some big plays that won us some games. And throughout the year, for him to really coming off what he had, the injury to ACL, coming into this year at the starting time, or really his first game versus Tampa Bay, and how much he improved throughout the whole year. And then where he took us all the way up to the Super Bowl. Came up a little bit short, our entire team, but Jimmy was one of the better quarterbacks in the league this year, and there's still a ton of room to grow, though. And he knows that, I know that, and to only have 1 year in this league for him to do what he did is very exciting. And I can't wait to get started with him this year, and I'm expecting to get better and better each week.
So now as you're preparing for your 4th year as the head coach of the San Francisco 49ers, what is the state of this franchise, Kyle, going into the year 2020?
Well, I think everyone knows. I mean, the way last year finished, I mean, we had as good of an opportunity as you can ever have to be a champion. And we came up just short. So that's by all means exactly what we're going for this year. It's what you go for every year. But, our first 2 years, we struggled a bunch. And even though we finished 6-10 and 4-12, we still felt like we were winners. We felt like we were better than our record indicated, but we knew we had to prove it. And last year we went out to prove that we were winners and we could compete in every single game we were in. And we did that. And we did that as well as any team. The games that we lost, we barely lost. And it felt like even though we lost a few, we could have won all those. And to know that our goal was to compete in every game, and that we actually did, and came up 1 to 3 plays short from a world championship. It's been hard to sit with all off season. It's also something I'm very proud of the state of the franchise, because we didn't luckily get there. We earned that. We earned that by doing it the right way. We earned that by playing very good football on offense, defense, and special teams. We did it with an entire team, an entire group. I mean, you look at the numbers across our whole team with how we played offense, defense, ran the ball, threw the ball, turnovers, everything with their whole team. It was as good of a football team as I've ever been a part of. And I know we were good enough to win that Super Bowl, and we didn't. And that's something we got to live with. And that's why the state of the franchise right now is we got to get right back to that moment. We got to get right back to that 4th quarter and get to have a lead, and we got to finish the job. And it's been weird with this quarantine and being in the off season, because I still feel like 2020 just started. But now I'm sitting here and I feel we're a month away, and I can't wait to get started, because it feels like we just left off at it. And I don't want to go through this off season. I want to get right back to where we left off in February. And I know we got to go through a season, and it's going to be a lot harder to do that, a lot harder. And we can play a lot better and still not do what we did last time. That's why all of our guys got to take this challenge, and we got to take advantage of this off season. And we got to still find a way to take a step ahead of other people, because everyone's chasing us right now, and it hasn't been that way.
I got to tell you, hearing you talk ball with the energy you're exuding, I'm pumped up. I can hardly wait for the season. Can't wait to see you. Stay healthy, brother. We'll see you soon.
Hey, same to you. Good seeing you. Take care.
With their eyes on a return trip to the NFC Championship game and a chance at the ultimate prize, the 49ers know it will take a team effort to achieve greatness. John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan have assembled an incredible support staff that is headlined by 2 of the best coordinators in the business. I was able to catch up with defensive coordinator Robert Saleh and special teams coordinator Richard Hightower in this next segment, presented to you by Toyota. The 49ers state of the franchise continues. Kiana Martin joined by 49ers defensive coordinator Robert Saleh and special teams coordinator Richard Hightower. Gentlemen, first things first, how are we doing? How are we holding up with shelter in place? With Saleh, I think you have a full house going on over there. What's it like over there in the Saleh household?
No, it's awesome. The kids, wife is doing an unbelievable job keeping a schedule, keeping a routine for the guys, for the kids. But it's been good. Every day, something new is happening. Every day, some kind of adventure, something exciting. So it's been good.